Yeah. If you're all willing to live this morning, how many of you raise your hand if you're willing to dare to live? All right, we're done. That's all I wanted to get across to you. First of all, gigantic, huge, capital letters carved from stone, a big thank you to you. I figure if I describe it, I won't have to actually do it. Okay, a big thank you to you at New Life, because the first 2 years we were in our inner city ministry in Cincinnati, you guys supported us amazingly, wonderfully, and bountifully, and so we thank all of you, whether you wanted to or not. You were supporting us, and so we appreciate that. I've noticed if you ever try to invite someone to church, I hope you have, at some point, it can be a scary proposition. But you'll find there's three basic responses. The responses fall into one of these three categories. The first response you get is full eye contact. You say, hey, you want to come to, we have a thing at our church, you want to come to church, and if you get full eye contact, that's the first kind. Like, oh, yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. We actually go down here to the Protoplasm Church, or whatever. It's always some science term, charged quark church down there. So we do, but thanks anyway, though, we're already involved. Okay, so full eye contact, I'm already involved, I already go to a church. You're right, it's a good thing. Thumbs up, we do the same thing, so I got my own. Thank you. And that's the first response, and that's what you'll get from people who are already actively involved in the church. Response number 2, no eye contact, and you get some stuttering. Enter the stuttering part. Hey, you want to come to church with us? We have a thing going on, you want to come? And that's, when is it? Oh, you say, Sunday morning? Yeah, we actually have a thing. I have a thing I can't get out of. It's called sleeping in. I can't get out of that. And so I can't do. So that's when you get the kind of the stumbling and the mumbling and the no eye contact. Now, what that says, though, however, is I respect the institution of church. I think that's a good thing. Really, I believe that is something I should be doing. I'm not doing it, which is why I'm stumbling and not making eye contact. But I agree that is a good thing that I just don't live up to. Okay, but so these are people who respect church, and somewhere on their list of things to do is go to church at some point, but they just don't do it often enough, and they feel kind of guilty about that. Okay, now group 3 is what I want to focus in on. Group 3 are the laughers. Hey, you want to come to church with me? Oh, no, which says, never in 1,000 years with a gun pointed to my head will I ever show up for church. These are the laughers. These are the three. It's like, absolutely not. I'm not ever interested in that. I'm not the tiniest. You're not tempting me one iota. No. Okay, not going to happen. Now, the reason I break this down for you is because there's been an alarming change in statistics. The Pew Research Group came out recently with some statistics. You guys probably, you're all hip and up on things, so maybe you heard this, but here are the stats. 1/5 of the United States public are religiously unaffiliated. I don't go anywhere, I don't want to go anywhere. No, I'm not going anywhere. It's 1/5 of the U.S. public, and significantly 1/3 of adults under 30. No, I'm not going anywhere. Now, here's where it got jaw. In the last 5 years alone, in the world of statistics, it's not really an exciting science, Statisticians are not generally the lives of the party, okay? They're working with numbers and extrapolating and things like that. But this was in the world of statistics, this never happens in a nation of 300 million people. You never have this big of a spike on anything. But in the last 5 years, the unaffiliated have increased from just over 15 to just under 20. That's like a 5% jump in 5 years, which is almost unheard of. Nothing ever changes that fast in a big society. And yet, wow, something huge is happening. The number of laughers has increased. The number of people like, no, I'm not going to church. Those people have jumped significantly. I'm never going to church. So that basically comes out to 33 million people in the United States who say I'll try again. I think you've already read it, haven't you? I don't really even need to say it. 33 million people say they have no particular religious affiliation. So that's like the most ever. All right, and then 2/3 of them, now here's where this is a little creepy too. 2/3 of that 33 million, and putting my quick mind to work, that's 22 million. You like that? Yeah, that just happened. 22 million people of them say they believe in God. Now, this gets to be a further slap in the face to us church folk. This means that 2/3 of the people who don't go to church are into God. Well, at least they believe in Him. No, I believe in God. So it's not because you're an atheist. No, I believe in God. I just don't want to go where His people are. Yuck. Yeah. Well, that is kind of disturbing, okay? 2/3 of them. So we got to ask ourselves the hard questions. Wait, what's going on here? This almost makes me feel a little bit guilty as one of those people who show up every Sunday morning that a significant jump of people don't want to be with me. I kind of take that to heart. I'm sort of taking this personally, as I think we should. Let's jump back to Acts chapter 2 and read about what it was back then. This is the early church. Church starts. It's the day of Pentecost. Big exciting things. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teachings. I heard you have another letter from Paul. Let's pull that out. Read it to us. We're great. Oh, this is great. And to fellowship, really getting to know each other. And to the breaking of bread, which either means communion or just eating, whichever one you want it to mean. And to prayer. Seriously. Everyone was filled with awe. I have not been to a whole lot of church services where I walked away. Whoa. Wow. Were you in there? Whoa. I need a moment. Woo! So, filled with awe. That's what, at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles, all the believers were together and had everything in common. Oh, you need something. Did you hear that, honey? Yeah, I'll tell you what. We have an extra one. We'll sell that one. We'll give it to you. You have, you had a terrible thing happen? Okay, we're going to all jump in. We got this. We got this taken. They're all taking care of each other. They're selling property. They're selling possessions, giving to anyone who had need. Every day, now up to this point, it's been sounding exciting. I got to just reveal to you, I'm just going to be transparent. This is the part that makes me go, eesh. Every day? So every day, they continued to meet together in temple courts. Whoa. Until they were kicked out. They met together in the temple courts every day. They broke bread in their homes, which either means communion or just eating, whichever one you want it to mean. Okay. And ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God, enjoying the favor of all the people. Even the people who didn't go to church were like, whoa, those people are something special. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Now, it's almost a little unfair to pull out first century stuff, the day of Pentecost, like just this brand new movement in Jerusalem, and try to hold us up to that standard. This is almost not fair. But I think we're going to have to come up with something for why people don't find this an engaging. I'm not saying specifically here, but church in general, they don't find it's like, no. I don't ever want to go to that again. Something's missing. This spirit of the team, and that's my favorite definition for like at its root what the church was. This was a team of people. Whoa, the adrenaline-filled, wide-eyed wonder of people getting together. Wow, whoa. When have I ever experienced that? And I remember a time in my life when I did, and this is going to be really goofy, but I can remember a time when I truly felt that sense of the team, the excitement of the team, and it's no great sports story. When I was growing up, then I'll pause here and say in parentheses, you never know how weird your upbringing is until you're an adult and you compare notes with other people. Have you noticed that by now? You don't know how weird your family is until you start comparing notes, until you marry into another one. Then you really know how weird your family is. There's that. But you don't know also how weird, sometimes when you move out of your region, you don't know how weird your region was. And this is one of those stories. Because I grew up in the Pittsburgh area where when it was October, you waited for it to get dark, and then you went around to people's houses, and you hurled hard corn at their house. And some of you are laughing. It was October. That's what you did in October. Now, I realized, and I moved out of the Pittsburgh area, weirdly, Pittsburgh and Indianapolis are the only two places in the country that I know of that did this, but this is what we did. It was Halloween time, so that meant the whole month of October. You went into some, we lived next to St. Vincent College, so they had these cornfields growing for their agricultural department. So you'd go over and steal this horse corn. I'm not endorsing this, by the way. I'm simply saying, I'm just reporting to you, that's what we did. And you grab this horse corn, we put it in our backpacks, run back home and husk it, and have these big containers of hard corn, and then go out, put them in brown paper bags, and go out, wait till it's dark, run up to somebody's house, and whale their house with corn, about 4 or 5 of us. Then we'd run not too far. You don't want to run too far away. You want to just hide in nearby bushes and wait to see what happens. And if nobody came out, the smart ones didn't do anything. It's like, no, that's it. They're not going to do anything. So you never went back to their house. Well, you're no fun. Sometimes okay, here goes. Ready, go. And then run in the bushes and hide. Why were you doing this, you may ask? Duh, it was October. That's what everyone did in October, or so I thought until I moved out of the area. So we would do it. Then you hide in the bushes, and all of a sudden a door, hey, who's out here? Some guy would start yelling, come on, hey, get off my, I didn't tell, you have no business being on. And guys would start yelling. We're like, oh, we're coming back here. Because this guy gets all manic and gets his knickers in a twist and comes out yelling at us. Whoa. Sometimes a guy would come out in the yard and look around and flash, hey, I'm going to find you, kids. I saw all of you. I know who all. No, you didn't. Shut up. I'm going to go to your parents' house. They won't care. So, but this is what we. And there was one guy, remember this guy moved in, I think from somewhere in the Midwest, somewhere where apparently this was not the custom. He did not know the custom. So, October, we're like, okay, who else do we want to get? There's this new guy. Want to try him? I think his name's Weller. So we all, okay, get a good handful. Here we go. Run up to his house, wail, and start to run away back out in the street. We didn't even get as far as any nearby bushes. This guy, reaction time. Shot out of his house like blazed out of a cannon and comes, you can't be stupid, yelling something incomprehensible. Grabbing us. I remember I was wearing this big stretchy sweater and pulled me back in. Grabbed my brother, and took my brother's bag of corn and whacked it over his head, spilling it everywhere. That was back in the day, man. You could damage kids. It didn't turn into a court thing. You just, we damaged the kid. Okay, that's no problem. Just don't draw blood. That's all we ask. So, and he's like yelling at us, and go shut up, some rageful language we couldn't quite understand. And then yes, you ever come on my property again, so help me. And he went back in Bermuda shorts, little black nylon socks, chasing us down the street with the little socks on. And he goes back in the house, and we waited about 10 seconds. And then we looked at him like, whoa, that was awesome. Whoa, we got to come back here. I don't know if the guy ever learned the way to keep the corn throwers from your house is don't do anything. He never. So we would plan, we would plot. This should tell you something about my schoolwork. I remember being in school, diagramming on a piece of paper, tablet paper. If we hit the house on the front and go to the sides, there's a vacant lot in the back. There's some piles of wood we can hide behind. I mean, actually playing this, it was the talk of the whole neighborhood. Everyone's talking about this guy Weller will chase you down the street. And guys were coming from other streets away. There's this, one time we were standing out front, we're plotting, okay, we're like across the yard across, we're like, okay, we're going to go on with someone doing. And these guys, these two guys we'd never seen before, they're like looking lost. Like, hey, what do you need? Oh, you guys from around here? Yeah. There's this guy Weller we're hearing about. Like, oh yeah, we're about to hit him if you want to jump in. And that's how it was. Now, what it felt like, first of all, yeah, soak in the weirdness of that. I don't know, I realized, so everyone doesn't do that anymore? Wow, that's weird. It was October. What's the matter with you people? Anyway, but I remember the feeling of like, whoa, gathering together with my comrades, my bros, my paisans out there in the mean streets of Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and just like this sense of, whoa, this is going to happen. It's going to be real. And hiding in bushes with guys like, whoa. And there was the fellowship. There was this sense of fellowship, like we are risking, we are daring. We are daring to experience the wrath of some homeowners here. We're willing to do that together, and the fact we're willing to do it together, there was a special bond and a special excitement in that. Now, it gravitated around hurling vegetables, okay? Not a real lofty cause. I have to think if we could upgrade that, blink a little bit, if we could get that sense of excitement, for things that actually matter, for things that are actually wholesome and things that are actually in the long run the greatest thing in the world for you. Wow, what we could have there. But things have changed. Things have changed. It's now 2015, and I don't know if you got the email. It's no longer illegal since AD 313. No longer illegal to be a Christian here. Some places in the world, absolutely. So here in the United States, how do you duplicate that excitement of the first century church? It used to be an experience. It used to be standing out in the street, and you're like, kind of wanting to know. Some guy passes by, standing there looking at you mysteriously, and he goes, "Hey kid," he looks both ways. You ever hear of Jesus? No, but I want to know more about this. Do you really? You sure? Yeah. And he looks both ways again. Psst, come on down. Slip down an alley. Big pile of sticks, move them out of the way, crawl in this little opening in the wall, both of you, and you get into some dark corridor, and it's kind of rank and mildewy. And what happens now? And there's this guy at the end. You go down there, and there's some big guy named Nick standing at the door. And you make this little sign in the dirt, like this, part of the fish, and then he does the other half of the fish. Whoop! That was your official signal. That's where that fish thing came from. That was the secret symbol. Oh, so you're into this. So, all right, come on in. And he opens the door really quick, and you go into this dark room with some candles lit, and a room full of people. They're all kind of looking panicky just to be here. If we get found out, if they come busting in here, we are in big trouble. We're going to get arrested. Some of us will be beaten. Some of us, the leaders, will be killed. But we're willing to do that. We got some stuff. We got some scrolls up in here. Illegal stuff. And the fact that you have joined us says you are willing to be a part of this illegal group. Becoming a Christian in the first 300 years used to be sticking it to the man. Your government does not want you to be a Christian. And that somehow added to the appeal of it. Like, whoa. And so you knew you were in for it. You were in for it. This could be big. This could be the end of your life. You could be tortured and killed for this. But you were willing. And that was a fellowship. That was a catch your breath, exhilarating, wide-eyed kind of fellowship. Like, whoa. Woo. How do you reproduce that? Well, there are some doomsayers that say that that's maybe not very far away for us, the way things are going. But for right now, yeah, I can't really make that. We can't duplicate that aspect of it. But I think there is an aspect that we can duplicate. And that is, I think, it was more than just the fellowship of the fact that this is illegal. It was also the fellowship of, I like to call it, because it sounds really cool, the fellowship of scars and calluses. There you have it. Scars and calluses, yeah. Just like that, as if you didn't know what scars and calluses look like. I submit for you this visual. Scars and calluses. I am willing to suffer with you. People who have suffered with you. You never forget. That is a fellowship. It's amazing. It's like magical things psychologically when you have suffered like this with someone. You ever get to see a group of soldiers who get together, guys who did combat together? If you ever have a chance to at least look in on it to see, wow, this is amazing. These guys have nothing in the world in common, all shapes and sizes, all walks of life, but there is something tangible that will always bind them together. We dodged bullets together. Some of us received bullets together. Some of us, we were fighting for our lives together, and that is an amazing thing. A friend of mine, Aaron, got to stumble. He was at a hotel in Indianapolis somewhere and stumbled upon the very aging fellowship of the survivors of the USS Indianapolis. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but the last ship sunk in World War II, right before the atomic bomb hit Nagasaki. Last ship sunk, and these guys were stranded in the South Pacific, hanging on to rafts for 4 days, dying of thirst and being eaten by sharks for 4 days. And they get together every year, these ancient men now. And wow, nothing in common, nothing else in common, but they love each other with a love that we can't understand because they suffered together. It's amazing. Now, you don't have to have real bloodshed. A guy named Tertullian, who was this ancient Christian from Egypt, was very wise. He said this thing. He said, the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. Whoa. That sounds pretty heavy. You're not going to win a lot of converts that way. But what he was saying was, you don't have to bleed. Okay, in 2015 America, we don't have to literally bleed unless you consider the blood mobile part of your Christian duty, which why wouldn't you? But you don't have to bleed. Okay, so it kind of, but what he was saying was, it's not until you sacrifice together that the church really bonds. And that's what I'm trying to say. People you have sacrificed with. There are people who will forever be etched in my mind, I will never forget, who were there when I was suffering. My son called us from jail one night after Bible study. Now, for all the things he's done since then that would this one basically amounted to, he had a muffler dragging, and it was Fairfax County, okay? And so, in addition to getting the muffler fixed and paying that fine, he also had to show up apparently at some hearing that he didn't show up for, so there was a bench warrant. So police come to our door, so we get him up for Bible study. He's calling us, I'm in jail. No, what do you mean you're in jail? It took us 5 minutes to figure out that he was actually serious. I'm in jail. Well, where are you? I don't know. You don't know what jail you're in. Can you ask somebody? No, the guards don't listen to us. I can't get him. I'm. So we finally figure out, so it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm in front of Fairfax County drunk tank, basically, and finally figure out $1,000 cash will spring my son from the containment of these 4 walls. I don't have $1,000 cash, but Brian Menny, who was in our small group, shows up 1 o'clock in the morning. You never forget people who are there with you at 1 o'clock in the morning, but I remember him being there, taking $500 out from one account, taking $500 from another account, because that's the maximum on ATMs. $1,000, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like, whoa. We have Scar Fellowship, Brian and I. I remember when a few years ago, my wife went through chemotherapy. We were still here then. A lot of you remember that. And our first day of chemotherapy, you basically feel like you're walking into a place, you feel like you're 11 years old. You just feel like some vulnerable little kid. I don't know what's going on. It's so scary. But Danny Dias, one of the leaders here, said, Tim, I want to be there for you guys. I'm like, well, it's just a little room, and there's no room. They only let us. I don't care, I'll be there. I'll be there in the lobby. And he waited in the lobby for 3 hours while chemo was going on down here. And there was just something psychological about walking down the lobby every half an hour going, talking to Danny, who was working on his laptop. The fact that you were there 20 yards away from me during this very scary time in my life. I have that Scar Fellowship with Danny. So there's that aspect of things. But again, I'm not trying to scare you all to say we have to bleed, we have to suffer, we have to go through some horrible thing. We will all go through some horrible thing. In case any of you are still deluded into thinking you're going to bypass that, we're all going to go through some horrible thing, okay? But when we're there with each other, there's some Scar Fellowship. The Callous Fellowship is what's much more accessible to all of us. Have you ever done something beyond Sunday morning? The reason why churches aren't appealing to people anymore, and why the under 30s are being honest, say, I have no appeal whatsoever, I'm not going, is the fact that it's kind of like brain fellowship. I agree with roughly the same things as you. You believe that? Yeah, I do too. And so for 1 hour a week, we'll sit together with people. Yeah, we all have kind of brain cell fellowship. You believe that? Yes. Yeah, you believe that? Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah, we believe that together. And then we go off, and that's it. Now, that's good entry-level stuff. But if that's all it ever has been, you're missing out. You're missing out on the Callous Fellowship, the Fellowship of the Scars. And there should be a good name for a church. Fellowship of Scars and Calloused, that no one would come to because we're not interested in either of those things, okay? But it does sound cool. You'll give me that. It does sound cool. Scars of Fellowship. We've done things together. It cracks me up now. We do inner-city ministry, so our weekly meeting is different than any other weekly meeting I've ever been called to. Never quite lasts an hour. It's story time is what we call it. We get together Thursdays at 10 o'clock in the morning. And what are some stories from the streets? And some of the things said in these meetings, I just start giggling to myself and write this down. I've never heard that before. I need to write that down. I've never heard that in a meeting. Remember, hey guys, let's be careful out there. It's shooting season. That was something said when it starts getting warm again. Yeah, I've never had that said in a meeting before. It's shooting season, you know. My friend Andrew said, well, yeah, I heard a couple shots in the night last night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, but my policy is, you hear shot, you wait. If there's no screaming, you go back to sleep. I'm writing that one down. I never heard of it. Because there's shooting to send a message, and then there's actual serious, yuck yuck kind of. And the stories we hear of like this little 5-year-old girl took a swing at me. Okay, that's something I've never often heard. But we're telling stories where these are people who are all in the trenches out there getting some calluses, working on some things. Like, hey guys, I don't know what to do because one of our adult volunteers keeps shoving guys up against the wall when they misbehave. Yeah, that's no good. We got to figure out a way to do that. We'll help you figure that out together. And guys, you got to help me because somebody vandalized my thing. We had a guy who, somebody held a gun up to him and took his car away, carjacked him, I think would be a quicker way of saying that. And that was one of, hey, we'll see what we can figure out. I think I got an extra thing over there. Yeah, I got an extra car. Moving like that. One phrase that I said after it was out of my mouth, I realized I've never said that in my life. I said, guys, I don't know what to do. These 2 heroin prostitutes from next door came over, and their pimp had left, and so they got their power shut off, and they asked me if they could plug their phone in, so I ran an extension cord from my porch into their window because the pimp had left. And I realized, that's a paragraph I've never, ever said in my life, and there was. And the old-timers kind of laughed, said, no, you don't, no, we don't, that's not how to do that. You don't run the extension cord over there. That's not how you do it. Well, I didn't know. But that's what we're doing. Stories from the street. You don't have to do that sort of thing. I'm not telling you, hey, I have way more exciting stories than you. I'm telling you, we all have access. I'm experiencing, whoa, this is exciting. There's a bump up you get when you're willing to have calluses with one another. When you're willing to do something more than just head work. When you decide you're not just auditing this class, you're also going to do something extra. And there's lots of extra things you could do. Now some of you are like, yeah, I don't know about the extra stuff. I dig just coming in here sitting for an hour and then I leave. Okay. But I'm telling you, you're missing out. There's a fellowship. I remember, guys, the things I've done around here when I was here for 13 years that I didn't want to do going in. And it's almost a guarantee. Something good's going to happen here. Yeah, I don't really want to do this, but it's like, we need furniture moved for spring. I suppose I should do that. That sounds like something I should do. But I'm telling you, the most fun I've ever had, and that's, I think, a little bonus God with a twinkle in his eye, a little bonus God gives for those who are out there trying to squeeze as much fun as they can on their own efforts. God's like, watch this. That's never going to be as much fun as you want it to be. But when you do something for me, something extra, I didn't ever say this in a promise in my word, but I'm telling you as one who's experienced it, there's fun. How in the world is that fun? I don't know how it's fun. It just is. Fun moving sofas into homes where people don't speak English and maneuvering all that. I was just talking to Corey out here in the hall. We were remembering one of our spring furniture runs. It's like, I didn't really want to do it going into it, but afterwards, like, man, that was fun. Why was that fun? I don't know. I think it's just an added perk God throws in when you're willing to do some work. The camps that go on these very grounds, the camps with some unruly people that you're like, no thanks, don't want to work with that. Or squirrely teenagers that meet here on Sunday nights. You're like, no, I'm done with that unstable world. Really? Come on. Try it. Try something out of the ordinary. What's it? Operation Feed? What's it called? I forgot. Generosity eating or something. Being generous and eating. Yeah, whatever that is that I can't think of. That's something you can pull. It's like, and if you're feeling that, I don't know, but come on. That's some of the fun times I've ever had around here is that extra stuff that you get calluses together. Callous fellowship beats the heck out of just brain cell fellowship. And you can experience that too. Mission trips that are available to you that are way, hundreds of miles, thousands of miles out of your comfort zone. Just try it. Just give it a shot. And come back to me, and you can wave your finger at me. You can do that. If it wasn't way more fun than you thought it was, it's the fellowship of the callous. Something's happening in churches to where people are like, no, thank you. And we've got to step things up. And I think it's that fellowship. It's that wide-eyed fellowship of people doing things, not just thinking things together, but doing things together, which is really going to make the difference. I think of my dog, Medusa. Medusa used to be this perky little sprite of a thing. And we had a much bigger dog. Some of you remember Ringo. And she would just run rings around Ringo and just harass the heck out of him. She was the alpha from the day she came home as a puppy. And So she was always just mixing up out in the yard, talking trash, and just throwing down with the neighbors, and just wild. And she would rush in every now and then. I need a little bit more energy. Boom. The only purpose of food was to fuel the adventure. And then back out she went. Woohoo! There's stuff to do. Medusa's now getting old, and things have changed. Now it's all about that dog dish. It's no longer about fueling the adventure. The dog dish is the adventure. This is it. She spends hours a day next to, because now we have another younger dog who dares to come within 5 feet of that dog dish. And sometimes they get into it, and sometimes I break up the fight, and sometimes I have gauze wrapped around my ankle from breaking up the fight. But that was last week. Anyway, but this is all about it's like this is what you do now. There's no more adventures. Now the adventure is the dog dish. Now I will hover over the dog dish like a vulture. Because, God forbid, the most unspeakable horror is that someone comes near my food. Things used to be different, man. This used to be just fuel for the adventure. You were out there doing stuff. And I think that describes a lot of churches in America. And this may explain why we've had that 5% spike in people that don't want to go to church anymore. It's all about guarding. Hey. We're guarding stuff here. There's a message from an angel for all of you that maybe you missed this message, because I did for many years. In Acts chapter 1, we find the story of Jesus ascending into heaven. And so the disciples were all like, whoa, just standing there. What? He just floated up there. Whoa. And this angel shows up and says, hey, men of Galilee. And I'll expand this for you. And all followers of the Galilean, P.S. Why do you stand here looking into the sky? Huh? Yeah, there's stuff to do. The same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come back in the same way you've seen him go into heaven. There is stuff to do. Quit staring at the sky. It's not all about the hereafter. It's certainly about the hereafter. But it's not all about. This is not what we just ponder abstract things. That's all we do. No. Scatter, go. Quit standing here. It's not about, you're not guarding the dog dish. You need to get out and do things. So this was the word of the angel to the apostles, and they took it to heart. They got out and did stuff. And the word would be the same for all of us here. It's not just about these, you quit staring into the sky, pondering these abstractions. Get out and do stuff. Are you doing anything? Are you daring to serve? I slipped that in there, didn't I? There's a great story from 2006. Well, it's not really a great story, but it's good for my purposes, and that's all that really matters. So, 2006, there was in Italy, a town in Italy. This guy calls the police, says, "Hey, I can't take care of my sister no more." All right, I'll dispense with the goofy accent. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" "Yeah, my sister. I can't feed her anymore. I'm just letting you guys know she's going to need someone to feed her." "Why does she lives with you?" "No, she lives in her own house. I've been delivering food to her door." "How long have you been doing that?" 26 years. "Is she handicapped?" "No, she just doesn't want to come out." And so the police go to this address and open up. Whoa! They had to put on gas masks to get in there. Carmela, the sister, had been in there never left the house for 26 years. She weighed 67 pounds, 7 feet of long gray hair, 7 feet. For some reason, she didn't have a pair of scissors in the house. And the smell was atrocious. Pathetic. When you hold yourself up, and they ask her, why? Why have you been in the house for 26 years? She said, well, about 26 years, I got really scared about getting influenza. And I was afraid I was going to catch something. And this was your answer. 26 years hold up because you're afraid you're going to catch something. Yeah. Listen up for good allegory appeal, folks. There's a message there for the church. You can stay safe. I don't want to catch anything. There's people out there with bad habits. They say yucky things and naughty words. We're going to stay in here. You look really pathetic when you're just worried about not catching anything. The angel wants to say to you, hey, it's not about looking up in the sky. Get out, go, do something. If you've never taken it up a notch, There are plenty of people. Talk to Mike Fuster. He will give you something to do. Get that callous fellowship going. Here's a better picture. I'll close with a much better idea, a much positive idea of what church should be. In the Spanish Empire, back when Spain had colonies all around the world, they had a policy on the books, and it was called Mala Iglesia, which, if you speak Spanish, my rudimentary understanding of Spanish, that sounds like that's bad church. Doesn't that sound like, you can explain to me later, but that translation does not make sense to me. Mala Iglesia was a policy that you were always safe. In the Spanish Empire, you were always safe in a church. If you felt like you were in trouble, somebody's chasing you down, you can run into the church. You could do this. A good example of that was back in the 1800s in the Philippines, which was run by Spain. The policy of Mala Iglesia. There was a guy named Custodio. Custodio worked for this white guy and who was cruel to him, just would slap around and treat him like horribly. And finally, Custodio couldn't take it more and snapped and grabbed a knife and stabbed his master twice in the buttocks. That was the police report. I'm not adding these details just to amuse myself, although that's amusing. Anyway, so he stabbed him and realizes, oh my gosh, I just stabbed a white guy in the butt. As one does. So he ran out in the street. Oh, where do I go? Where do I go? He's like, really? Okay, I can't go home. I can't. And he's like trying to and he sees up in the hilltop a church. I'll run to the church. Runs up the hill to the church and slides in there like he's sliding, Father, you got to help me, Father. Okay, hold on, slow down. And the priest goes over and closes the door, latches it shut. Tell me what's going on. Because you're safe here, son. It's the rule of Mala Iglesia. And he proceeds to tell him the whole story. By the time the police knock on the door with this angry guy holding his butt cheek, there's the guy. The priest explains, listen, I heard this guy's story, and he was justified. This guy was cruel to him. Okay. And the police walked away. It's all done. It isn't going to trial because the father says, you're okay. I just love that picture of the church, okay? And a church where people are out there, running the risks of something, not stabbing anyone in the butt. That's not what the takeaway from this story. Okay, no stabbing in the butt. Write that down. But the fact is, exciting things are happening. Whoa! And where do I go? Ooh, I need to run in. This should be the pit stop that fuels our adventure. This is a safe place for us to gather and recharge and encourage you. Oh, that happened to you too? Wow, yeah. Let's talk afterwards. And you can, that's great. And we can share something. And woo, a different picture of the church, an exciting picture of the church, which will actually inspire those people out there who are laughing when we invite them to church. All of a sudden, this is something different. This is a different sort of fellowship. It's not just brain fellowship. It's not just belief fellowship. It's also the fellowship of the scar and the callous. These people do something. This is attractive. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for this crazy setup you put here on the earth, Father, where you entrusted the most precious messages to a bunch of boneheads, bumbling, stumbling our way in the dark, Father. And sometimes that seems like a crazy way to do things, but that's how you chose to do things, Father. I pray that we will be ever amazed at what you've done for us and that we will keep that jaw-open excitement for you and be a fellowship of the excited and the exciting. In your Son's name I pray. Amen.